Hi, I'm Brooke Gleichowski, and I'm so excited to welcome you to Beam Boldly. As an NCAA Division I gymnast, I know firsthand what it feels like to carry the weight of performance, expectations, and identity. Here, we're going to talk about all of it. We're going to talk about mental health, performance anxiety, NIL, resilience, and of course, how faith is our foundation that carries us through all of that. Whether it's stepping onto the beam in competition or just stepping out in everyday life, we are called to live boldly, and we're called to let our light shine. The name Beam Boldly was inspired by the verse Matthew 5:16, which says, "Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." To me, that's what this podcast is all about. So if you're ready to hear raw conversations, find strength in faith, and be reminded that you are never walking this journey by yourself, join me as we step boldly into everyday life. Hey you guys, welcome back to Beam Boldly. I am so excited for today's episode because we have a very special guest, a very dear friend of mine, Mallory Gregory. Mallory and I met in club gymnastics, but then she continued on to be a gymnast at The Ohio State University. She has 2 awards from there, the Heart of a Champion Award in 2024 and the Stephanie Malice Selfless Award. And then she also just received 2025 FCA Female College Athlete of the Year, which is a huge accomplishment. It just shows that you have been bold about your faith and your time in college, and I absolutely love that. So, welcome, Mal.
Hi, everybody. So happy just to, be here today with Brooke. This is truly full circle for me from being at club gym with her, meeting her for the first time, to now being able to share our faith on a podcast like this. So happy to be here, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited. You were one of the first people on my list when I had the idea of this podcast, just because our last couple years of high school together were really big for me. And so Mallory's a couple years older than me. So Mal was kind of my role model. She was like the senior that I looked up to. I even remember this is my most vivid memory of us talking about faith. I was going through really rough time. I was coming off of when I broke my back and I had all that COVID stuff happen, yada yada, long story. But I was just really having a hard time in the gym. Lots of tears were being shed. And I remember after practice one day, you sent me the song Firm Foundation, and I'd never heard it before. And I listened to it and I just started crying immediately, but it was such a good reminder, and it was exactly what I needed in that moment of okay, he's my foundation, even though it felt like at the time gymnastics was the end of the world. But I just remember being wow, I looked up to you so much because you saw me, you saw what I was going through, and you helped me circle everything back to God. And so that meant so much.
Yes, I just remember that time, and that's kind of when I started truly living fully for the Lord, was within that point. And I'm like, oh, I have this, that I am of more of seniority in the gym at the time to help these girls and aid them in a different way. And my transition out of club gymnastics, where we were together and stuff, it was okay, how can I still ensure that I'm impacting the girls that I'm currently around and leaving a positive impact on them as I'm leaving, but something that won't flee well, not fleeing, but something that won't leave them like I'm having to leave the gym to, go on to other things, but something that will, be able to be their firm foundation forever. So.
You setting that example was also really good for me because I was a sophomore and we didn't have a whole lot of seniority. Even you were one of the only seniors. And then the year following you, there was only a couple. And so I was moving into that seniority position as well. And so it was a great example of okay, yes, I'm, starting to get recruited and look at colleges and all of these things, but I still have a job here to help these younger girls bring Jesus into their life, bring things back to that. So it was really good to feel that from you so that I could help others too.
Yes, and then now you're getting able to share it with everybody on Beam Boldly. So
Yes,
look at that.
exactly, which has been such a blessing. Yeah, so I'm just so glad you're here. I would love to go ahead and just get into kind of your story, your background, how you got into gymnastics, what your faith was like growing up, all that sort of stuff.
Yes, yes. So I'll kind of start off with my gymnastics story. It's quite a bit of a roller coaster, but I really started off in gymnastics. How I started, I went to a gymnastics camp where Brooke and I did club, which was Brandy Johnson's Global Gymnastics in Claremont, Florida, and went there with my sister, who she was the one actually interested. And I was like, oh, like my mom's like, just go along with her, whatever. So I went along. I was like, oh, this is pretty fun, but probably won't ever do it again. And my mom's like, well, like, let's just sign you girls up for classes. And my mom went to the front desk. And at the time, the owner of the gym, Kathy, was up there. And she goes, wait, is your daughter Mallory? She goes, yeah, like, I'm just coming up here to sign her up for classes. And I remember she told my mom, no, your daughter's going on team. She's going to be good. Trust us on this. And my
Oh,
mom's,
wow.
what the heck? Like, what do you mean? So it was super cool. I started team. That was my seventh birthday gift, was being able to start gymnastics. So
That's
what a great
adorable.
way to bring in the year. Yeah. So started out and just fell in love with it right off the bat. I was somebody who was and still am very detail oriented, regimented oriented, and super focused and honed in on things. There was some points where fear was definitely an issue. There was a point where I wouldn't even do a back walkover on the floor, and I will never forget because I was still like, oh, like do I want to do gymnastics, or I was really into golf at the time as well. Which one do I want to choose? And I will never forget, it was level 4. I was sobbing in my parents' hallway and I was like, Dad, I'm quitting. I can't do a back walkover on the beam. Like, it's just not gonna happen. And he goes, well, nobody's stopping you. Just quit. And I was like, no. And then I went the next day and I did a back walkover.
Oh
So
my gosh.
just little things like that. And
What
then
a story.
yes. Oh, yes. It's me and my dad's favorite story to tell. But really, from that point, never looked back. Just fully fell in love with the sport, fully just dove in. I was quite a lame bloomer in gymnastics, so worked my way up to level 10. Was, I don't know how I was a level 10 my first year.
Honestly, same.
Yes. I was like barely making a bail, like ended up breaking my wrist on a bail, like whole shebang. But ended up coming up my freshman year of high school, we had a meet at Buckeye Classic. And I remember just driving around the streets, one of our other teammates, another Brooke Dennis, and I was like, oh, mom, I really love the houses around here. Like, I want to go to school here. And I'm like, do they have gymnastics? And she goes, oh, yeah, they do. Like, when we go back, like, we can, figure out how to get it started. So ultimately, started talking to Ohio State, I believe around like late sophomore year. And this was kind of right before the rule change. And I talked to them for 2 years straight, sending text messages multiple times a week. Brooke was there. Brooke was the one taking
I
the
was
video.
just about to say, I remember this so vividly because you were one of the first, like, older gymnasts I watched get recruited because I didn't really know how it works, and so I remember so vividly, like, how many times I wanted to ask you, like, "Did you hear back from Ohio State? Did you hear back from this or that?" And because it was a process.
It was definitely a process, especially being a late bloomer at the time. I didn't have a 1.5 on vault. I was still kind of fearful in some things and wasn't at my full potential yet. So it was a hard sell, but as the Lord says, you have to persevere and just, keep at it. You knock at the door and he will answer. So ultimately, verbally committed to Ohio State my junior year and then signed my senior year and was able to come here and hit hardship very quickly. I had my new Achilles surgery my freshman year, which kept me out. And then, kind of through that process, doing a lot of bars, which then in return, I dealt with a lot of wrist issues within club, which unfortunately Brooke has also seen.
Unfortunately.
And ended up getting, some imaging done on a Friday, had a follow-up appointment on Monday, and was getting surgery that following Friday to get a 7-inch plate and 7 screws put in my arm. And doing that, there was a 75% chance I would never be able to do gymnastics again. And that's kind of then, I've always been pretty faithful throughout the gymnastics, especially within the fear factor of everything. But it was at that point, I was like, oh my gosh, like my identity's in gymnastics. What have I been doing this long? And now it may be fleeing. And like what am I truly standing for? What am I truly living for? Because I'm not going to be a gymnast forever.
Yeah.
So, and kind of hearing that and hearing, I can be done. There's no guarantee ever really in life. The Lord doesn't promise us you're going to be great at a sport. He doesn't promise us it's going to last forever. And a sport like gymnastics, that's very taxing on your body. It really doesn't. So through kind of walking through that, one of my teammates my freshman year, who actually medically retired, she was a senior when I was a freshman, helped me so much. And her name is Zoe Schweitzer. Absolutely amazing. Her and I are still best friends to this day. And she really just walked me through and taught me how to be bold in my faith and being like, gymnastics is a tool that you get to use to greater glorify his name. It's not who you are. It's what you do to glorify his name. It's not who you are.
Amen.
So, and her help and just truly like diving into the word and I'm somebody that journals my prayers. It's truly just journaling out the wazoo, gearing up to this surgery. And then also my coaches were like, "Are you sure? Like, this is a big thing. Like, we really could use you as an asset." I'm like, I knew in hearing the two decisions, I needed to get everything done and the Lord was going to take it. Like, he made it very evident to me. Like, I had visions about it, like the whole shebang. Woke up from surgery, did not have an ounce of pain, did not take a single pain
Wow.
medication, it was like truly a miracle, truly miraculous. Coming back after 5 months, which was supposed to be a 9-month recovery or 8-month recovery, I believe, and competed for my first time in college on vault against the team up north. We don't say their team name there. Against Michigan. And truly, and ironically, I don't even know if you know this, Brooke, but the last time I ever competed my 1.5 in a competition was the same exact day 3 years prior. Yeah.
Wow. I did not know that.
So it was
That's
truly like
crazy.
only God could orchestrate that. And there was
Yeah,
on the team being like, "How are you going through this?" And like being okay with it. I'm like, I know I'm not in control, so I can have joy within the hardships and can still find the little things to be happy with. And ended up going through the whole season, ended up getting a concussion at Big Tens.
oh my
Unfortunately,
gosh.
got my season a little bit short. And yeah, yeah, it's been a ride. And now I'm going into my senior year here at Ohio State, but medically retired after my junior season due to the metal starting to reject from my body. So if you can think of the worst pain you've ever felt in your life and times it by 100, that's what I was feeling constantly 24 hours a day. And it was getting to the point where I still had joy and I still had faith in what the Lord had promised me, but he was showing me in a different light, okay, this is what I'm calling you to do for these girls. I'm calling you to evangelize to them. I'm calling you to call them higher. I'm calling you to be there and assist, just like how I did Brooke and Club. Be there in a different light,
Totally.
somebody with a voice to not be afraid to voice it. And I originally was going to medically retire before season even started last year. And talked with my coach and I had a surgery date scheduled. I was ready to be done because just of the amount of pain. And it was a miraculous turnaround. It was a Friday. I was praying. I'm like, "Lord, I feel like you're telling me to medically retire. I have practice literally Saturday morning. You make it so miraculous to where I can't deny it anymore. I don't care like what happens." I went in the next day, face planted 3 times on floor, and I never face plant on floor. And I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, I don't know if if I had ever seen you face plant on floor in all the years that we were together.
And I was like,
Oh my
"Oh my
gosh.
god. Okay,
So
so."
you're like, "I'm done." Like,
Mhm.
that's
And
my way out.
point, like I walked out of the gym just crying. I was like,
Oh,
"Okay, Lord, like I hear you. You made it very evident to me." So I went and talked to my trainer, waited about a month, scheduled a surgery for I believe like end of December. And then me and my coach were talking. She's like, "Let's just take a month. Let's truly just see if it'll subside with time." And I was like, "Okay." Like I'm going to be respectful of that. Like I still have a job here and ended up postponing it that first time. Then next month came around, had another surgery date scheduled. Some girls started to go out with some injuries. She's like, "Oh, like, let's just start to, work on some front tumbling." I was never a
I've
front tumbler.
never seen Mal do front
No,
tumbling.
never a front tumbler, never really could
Yeah,
front twist. I would twist right off the floor and land on my back in the pit.
yeah.
Like,
Y
that's
Like,
the
you and Brooke Dennis, the front twisting was, like, not happening.
never. Never. And I was like, okay, I've never front twisted before, but I can't do anything on my arms, so let's just give it a shot. Ended up learning a whole new floor routine with only front twisting. Also, was never really a leaper in club. Became miraculously, by the grace of God, learned a new leap, like two different leaps, learned how to front twist, and was doing full floor routines on the floor within a month with that whole new routine. And she's like, oh, okay, so we're gonna have you then like start to warm up an exhibition at meets. So I was like, okay, gotta postpone this surgery again. So I ended up doing that, and this
And this
was
whole floor routine is no hands,
no
right?
hands. I did not
Like
touch my hands once. Even in like the cartwheel
like
layout step out I did, sometimes I would do the cartwheel one-handed because it just hurt to put my hand down so much.
wow.
So
Okay.
yes, very, very different from my routine in club. And I was getting ready to what I thought exhibition. And I just remember every time before I compete, I go to the same stairwell. I have my worship music blasting, and I go and I journal out my prayer and I write the verse that I always write on my arm, Mark 9:23. And I was in there and I'm like, this is supposed to be my last meet ever, like my last time competing ever. And I was like, I feel like it's not going to be. And I don't know why. And at this point, we already had 4 girls out with major injuries.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I remember sitting there and I was like, Lord, I want this to be the last time. But if you don't want that, make it so clear to where I can't deny it. Make this song come on after I finish. Like, out of all the songs that people like, make this the one that comes on. And, you have your way. I go out in the 4-minute touch. A girl goes out with an ankle injury.
Oh my gosh.
We're in the huddle before we're getting ready to, compete, and they're like, Mallory, you're in the lineup. And I was like, what? I was like,
You're
okay.
like, "Oh, okay."
And I was like, Lord, like, you have your way. Like, I always did, like, this is gonna sound so weird. I would always go to the bathroom 2 minute, like, or 2 routines before I were to compete. And I would close my eyes, do my whole floor routine in my head, visualize it, look myself in the mirror and said, yes, you can. God's got you. Fist bump myself in the mirror and walk out and go compete.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
and like, I never did that in club, like, ever.
No.
And I was like,
Yeah.
just gotta do it, because I was like, never done this before, but the Lord has me and He will get His way. And this is me surrendering that to Him. I went out, I competed, was one of the best routines like within the lineup that night. And lo and behold, the song that I prayed to come on, if He wanted me to continue to compete, came on. And I just started sobbing. And I immediately, because I was the last one to go, I immediately walked up to my coach and I was like, don't ask me questions. Don't do whatever. Because this was a Sunday meet and I was supposed to be getting my surgery on Wednesday. And I said, don't ask me any questions. I'm postponing my surgery. I'm staying here and I'm going to finish out this season because I can't let the people that have helped me so much through this process and see this team, not be able to reach their full potential if I weren't in there. And I understand that I've already postponed it twice, but this is a third and final time that I will postpone it for you guys. And I just remember
Yeah.
my coach looked at me. She was like, "What? Like, are you sure?" She's like, "It's okay." And I'm like, "No. Like, this is how the Lord is calling me to serve you and to serve the team and to serve the girls and the coaches in the university. Like, I have to be obedient to it. Yes, I am in immense amount of pain, but the pain won't compare to what he's going to be able to do through this process." And she was just like hugged me like crying, and it was just such a relieving moment because I didn't want to, but the Lord had a greater plan, and I had to set aside my fleshly desires to fully pursue his kingdom and fully pursue like the people that he was calling me to serve in a different way. So, long story short,
Wow.
long story short, yeah, so that's kind of my gymnastics and faith journey as a whole. And now being removed as a gymnast from the program, I'm now doing social media for them full
Which you're so good at.
time. Thank
Like,
you.
seriously, so good. Also, I just have to say, like, I remember seeing like, I had kind of known what you were going through, but from a distance, right? Like, I knew the plan was kind of to medical. Your wrist had always been, like, a really big, like, issue, and so I remember opening Instagram, and the first thing that popped up was your floor routine, and, like, I'm getting chills thinking about it because I was literally like, no way, like, she just got to compete floor. And you did, like, amazing your, like, first time out there.
Mhm.
And because floor and vault were, like, your thing, and
Yes.
so I I was like, "Oh my gosh, she's getting to do floor," and then totally no double layout, no, like,
Run through the
double
2
back.
no double
Right.
bike.
Yeah, and so I was just like, "Oh my gosh, totally different routine," but, like, it's so cool how God provided that opportunity in a way that you would have never foreseen. Like, if we were talking, I'm a sophomore in high school, you're a senior in high school, and I'm like, "Hey, Mal, did you know that in college you're actually gonna front twist?" You would be like, "You're crazy." Like, absolutely not. Like, why would I front twist? But it truly shows how, like, God has a plan, and also how how fruitful was that for you to experience because you had been obedient to him and because you had invited him in to your circumstances, to your injury, to the struggle, like, that's how the outcome was so fruitful, right? Like, that's how the end of the journey was something full of so much joy despite all of the hurt that you had gone through, and I think that's super incredible. I would definitely need to circle back to a couple things that you said. Number 1, the fear thing. You know, I'm in that same boat, and I know that there's so many younger athletes, especially gymnasts, because this is a crazy sport that we do. It's awesome, but it is crazy. And I know that so many athletes face this fear aspect. So I want to kind of dive into that with mental blocks, things like that. I know you and I have gone through the whole shebang.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about that.
Yes, I mean, you say any skill within gymnastics, and I was afraid of it at one point. Like, there was a point I wouldn't even go over the table on a front handspring, wouldn't even do a back walk over on the floor, wouldn't let go of the bar. Like, when I was learning giants, I was terrified to go around the bar. Like, and that's
No, same. I was scared to jump to the high bar. I would like, honestly, while we're at it, I was terrified to do any sort of vault, period. I was scared to jump to the high bar. I was scared to do giants, scared to do my flyaway. Even after I'd done it for years,
yes.
somehow things still haven't and mental blocks still creep in. I
Mhm.
mean, I was scared of rounded back handsprings, double backs, like twisting on floor, series on beam. I'm pretty sure I've relearned my series like 4 times.
Same.
Like, it's real. Just for the little girls out there that are listening that are like, "I'm so scared." Girl, we're right there with you. I promise we were there.
Yes, yeah. And I just think through that, I was also held by fear in so many different parts of my life. One was definitely sleep for me. I could not sleep alone. And I was like also seeing a lot of sports psych people. I've probably seen a total of 3 to 4 different sports psych people like throughout
Wow.
my time. And just being able to talk to them, I was able to learn like at the end of the day, like the biggest person in your way is yourself and the lies that the enemy is feeding you of like, oh, your hand's gonna slip on this back handspring, or oh, like the vault isn't moving, like it's just gonna move all of a sudden. Like when that really it's hard to do those things. You almost have to think about doing them so much. And when you're feeding almost into those fears, it almost happens because you're so hyper fixated on what can go wrong instead of what the Lord like is doing in you like to perform those skills. So I think that was something that really helped me to bridge the gap on that, is just realizing that, oh, okay, my hand does slip. What's the worst thing I'm going to do? Fall off the beam? Woohoo! Yay, get back up. Like
Yeah.
I almost had to
You had to, like, symbolize it.
yes,
Simplify.
simplify. There we
You
go.
had to simplify it.
Yes, I really just had to simplify it in total and be like, okay, what is the truth? It's just like the Lord tells us, like, my word is the truth. My word is living water. Like, it is life. Like, okay, so what is the truth behind this skill? Okay, I'm going to reach back. My hands are going to go on the beam. They're going to have little W fingers, and I'm going to kick over. Okay, that's the truth. Go execute the truth, you know? It's just, I really just had to simplify it. And I think within growing and maturing in gymnastics, but also heavily in my faith, it truly, truly helped me in being able to simplify it and as well and be like, okay, what is the truth? What is, the concept of this skill? Okay, I just need to focus on the simple things and everything else will take care of itself. And even like before I got my wrist surgery initially and I was, fighting for a bar lineup spot, like even just within the summer training bars, I did go back to a mental block with my Takachev on bars. And really just had to go back to the basics and not necessarily relearn it, but reframe my mind on the truth and the matter of fact of the skill, not having it to where I was feeding myself these lies and these fears to where then I was doing full bar routines in the summer leading up to the surgery.
Yeah, I think that our stories are actually so similar, and I wish that I mean, literally, part of the reason I'm starting this podcast is because I wish that I knew how to invite God into my mental blocks because I never understood them. A lot of times I couldn't even tell you, like, why I was scared. It was just like, I was just scared,
Yep.
and I remember the first time I realized that my thoughts were not coming from God, and Brandy Johnson, she looked at me. I was, like, walking back down the runway after not going for a vault, and she was like, "The enemy's feeding you lies right now." And I remember it hit me. I was like, "Oh my gosh." I never thought about it in that way because I had always struggled, like, "Okay, I'm so fearless on Sundays, and then I'm so fearful every other day of the week." And when she, like, connected those dots for me, I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, that's exactly what's happening." And it gives you that little bit of motivation of, like, I'm not gonna let the enemy's thoughts, like, stand in my way, right? But then in a more practical sense, because you still have to, like, make your body do the skill, I love what you said about simplifying it. I have to do this with my beam series all the time. Hand lay, I have to be like, it's just 2 back handsprings and a layout. It's not like this long, giant, like, mountain that I have to climb up and get down in 3 seconds in my beam routine. Like, that's not what it is at all. So anyways, I just think our stories are so similar in that way, and also the fact that the more we grew in our faith, the more we learned what was in the word for word, what was in the word of God. It helped so much because, again, you didn't have to relearn the skill. You didn't relearn Itakachev. You'd been doing Itakachev since what,
Weird.
2020? Like, something like that.
Mhm.
You don't have to relearn the skill, but you had to reframe your mind on the skill. And part of that is bringing God into it and being like, okay, what does God say about me? And what does he say about me doing this skill, right? He says that you are capable, that he is your strength, that he's going to help you, that he is going to protect you. That's what he says. And then you think of the actual gymnastics side of like, okay, I'm whatever the skill is. I'm running down the runway, doing a round off onto the board, and so be it from there,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so powerful.
Yes, truly so good. It's even like reminds me too just of like the refinement process that we go through in our faith, and we're all going to fall short at some point, but when you fall short, which direction are you pointing? Are you pointing back to the Lord or are you pointing, to the world? So like in knowing like everybody's going to fall short, everybody's going to be held captive by fear, anxiety, depression, something at some point, but when it does fall to that, which where are you pointing and who are you around to help feed that truth and that life back into your life?
I know that there's a verse in the Bible too that says, "When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned." And this verse is so powerful. I love it because it never says you're not gonna walk through fire. Like, it never says that those struggles, like the mental blocks, the anxiety, the fear, it never says you're not gonna have those struggles, but it says that with God, you won't be burned by them. Like, he is the one that gets you through. He is the one that helps you overcome, and that's incredible. Like, what a cool story of imagine the story literally being like, "Yo, I just walked through fire yesterday, but, like, look at me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not burned." It's the
Mhm.
same way, yeah, you can't physically see I was marked by anxiety yesterday and now I'm not. You may not be able to physically see that, but scripture says that, and it's such a reality for how God works in our life.
No, for sure. Like even when it talks about like running the race with endurance, like it doesn't like in at when you're running a race, you're running at different paces. You're going through different avenues and obstacles. And it's never going to say, "Oh, you're going to run a perfect race at this pace and, you're going to make it, through this time." No, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint, and there's going to be different paces, and everybody within their own walk with the Lord and relationship with the Lord is going at a different pace as well. So I think that kind of, especially in a sport like gymnastics, which is very comparison based and you're judged on how well you can execute.
That's literally our whole sport
Yes.
is being judged. Are you perfect? How perfect are you? And how perfect are you not? It's
Yes.
our whole sport. We're surrounded by it a lot.
Yes, and just being able to, realize that the pace that you're going at is the pace that, the Lord has set you at. And as long as you are continuing to run the race and even endurance, like you see endurance in a floor routine all the time, like being able to pace yourself and knowing when you need to breathe. And there's going to be those highs and lows and those ebbs and flows just of life and everything as well. And not getting discouraged by that because, I mean, I've even known people that had a fear issue and just totally quit. And it's like, what are you doing to not be defined by the fear and being able to realize I'm still a daughter of God, I'm still a child of God. That is what I am defined by. I'm not defined by the fear that's in my life currently.
So true. And he gives us these gifts, right? And sometimes it's really hard to see gymnastics as a gift. It really is because it's like, how's this a gift when I'm so scared, when I'm so nervous all the time, when my body's hurting? Like, how is this a gift? But when you look at the big picture, like God is giving it to you for a reason. Like you and I both can stand here and say that now being a little bit older, right? Like now you're out of it, but like gymnastics is such a gift and it provided these opportunities for both of us to be on this podcast right now.
Yes.
And it's so sad when I see fear just completely take over like a young athlete and then they're not able to come back from it because they're struggling to lean on the Lord, you
Hmm.
know?
Yes, 1000%.
Okay, so like you've talked about a little bit, you faced a lot of injuries throughout your career. Could you talk a little bit about how your perspective was different when you trusted God's plan versus when you were relying on yourself, focused on yourself, not trusting what he had for you?
Yes, yeah. So I came to Ohio State and immediately it's like, I want to be in this vault lineup. I want to be competing floor. Like, I don't really like bars, but I still, want to be vouching for a spot and all of these things. And it was very much about what I can do to set myself up for worldly success versus what I can do to glorify the kingdom. And ultimately, did not get to compete at all my freshman year with getting the surgery on my Achilles. And then going into the summer, I was like, okay, like, I'm just going to have the Lord take control. And it started to be really fruitful again. I was, fully recovered from that and doing skill sets before preseason started and all of these things. And then all my wrist stuff started happening and was all of a sudden now like in a hospital operating room getting the plate and screws put in my arm. And I just remember sitting there being like, okay, Lord, like I know there's a chance, like doctors are telling me there's a chance I can never do the sport again, but I know you have a greater plan and this was put in my life for a greater purpose. So through that, fully surrendered over sport and everything to him and be like, you have your way, you point me in the right direction and I will be obedient and I will follow. So ultimately that became so fruitful and being able to make such a quick recovery and being able to compete multiple times that season, stuck a vault at Penn State, and like I went crazy. Like I was
Yeah.
excited and everything as well. And going to Big Tens, I was like, okay, like I've already stuck one vault, this year I'm gonna go and I'm gonna be vault champ. Like I know there's other people in the conference, but I want this bad and I will find a way to get it. And in warm up that meet, literally like one of the weirdest flukes that I've ever seen happen. I was warming up and I'm very much of a quick twitch athlete, very fast, very, jumpy and everything like that, have a lot of momentum, especially when it comes to vault warming up, and did a full, and my coach was standing back there because we were on podium, so extra bounce, extra momentum, and of course the jitters were going. Did a full. She went to go step back to like move out of the way of the mat and started to slip. I was like coming up and her chin went straight into the back of my head. And I
Ow.
was like, ooh. I
Oh
was
my
like, oh,
gosh.
that did not feel great. And like, I wasn't like hurting per se, but like, when like you hit your nose or you hit your head, like tears just start coming out of your
Yeah,
eyes.
and it's like a huge shock.
Yes, for sure. It was just definitely more of like the shock factor of like, what the heck just happened? Like, I feel like I'm in La La Land. Like, what's going on? And I was like, okay, like, kind of feel a little funny, but I'll continue the warm up because this was in the warm up before the competition started. And I went back down to the end of the vault runway, went and I stuck a 1.5. I was like, oh, psh, I'm fine. I got this in the bag. Like, don't even worry. Went back to the locker room, changed into our Leos, went back out. Vault was our third event. So, and it was at Michigan State this year, and it was loud. It was very rowdy. And I was like, ooh, my head's hurting. Like, my eyes feel like they're starting to close, but like, I still need to compete. Like, I gotta go out there.
Right, and what's on your mind is like,
For
"Oh,
sure.
I'm about to be
Yes.
champion."
I'm like, psh, I just stuck the one before. Like,
Yeah.
I want to be on this podium. Like, you guys, watch out. Very much self centered, very much about me. And I went and I competed and I almost blew out my knee because I landed lock legged and somehow, by the grace of God, did not fall.
Oh my gosh.
Landed lock legged, both knees like went back, somehow didn't fall, and was like, oh, like that just happened. And I think that was very much of a wake up call of me of I did give it fully to him, but then I started to revert back to my old ways of, okay, Lord, this is what I want, so I'm gonna go try to do this. And clearly we
Right.
see that that did not work out in my favor at all. And I didn't even get to travel for the rest of postseason because I was on concussion protocol and was so sensitive to lights and everything as well. And kind of then reflecting on that and everything that went on leading up to my medical retirement, I fully was like, okay, I've seen both sides, and one was so, so, so much more fruitful than the other. Why would I ever try to do something for myself again? Because I did try. I tried to do something for myself again, and that was to be done and not serve my team the way the Lord was calling me to serve. But He's like, no, like that's not going to happen. And, unfortunately, that did have like other girls on my team like get severe injuries and stuff like that to where I was put in. But in like being able to do that, I was able to serve the girls in such a different light. And not that I'm doing it for their respect at all. I'm doing it for the name of the kingdom, but there's still so many girls that come up to me and be like, "I don't know how you did that." Like
Right.
I really don't.
And
Um
part of you is like, "Yeah, I don't know either. That was literally all God."
I don't. It truly was. People ask me like, "How did you do that?" I'm like, I surrendered it and I just was walking. Like
And you were obedient.
yes, like it's
Mhm.
so important. Like obedience is just so, so important because of if you were to disobey, your disobedience could have an effect on everybody else around you in your life. So it's like, okay, not only are you being obedient to the Lord, but also His plan and what He's going to do in your life to then, serve those around you. That's something that I truly just was able to see and like so vividly like, okay, Lord, you delivered me from this injury. You really didn't have me medically retire when I thought I was going to have to after getting it put in like the first year. And then I tried to take back control, almost blew out both my ACLs. And then now again, I'm here competing and ending, my competition season at Penn State, which is the first meet I ever traveled to with the team, my freshman year. And now I'm ending my junior year. This is where I'm competing for the last time at regionals, which I never thought I was ever going to be able to do with like my whole family in the stands. And I just remember being done, just like crying with my teammates. And I was like, I have no regrets. And like that's something too, like even like throughout life, like not only gymnastically, but I never wanted to have regrets of anything. If the
Yeah.
Lord was calling
And
me,
you know who told us that all the time? Miss Kelly Pitson.
oh yeah, Queen Kelly, yeah, she I mean, and too, like that's something she truly taught us so well is you never want to have regrets. You never want to look back at, your time as a gymnast, whatever sport that you may be in, your life in general, like being on your deathbed, being like, oh, I wish I went and I told this person about the Lord. I wish I served this person like the Lord calls us to serve. But just being able to have that selfless mentality to where you're truly just working for the good of the kingdom.
Right. And imagine if, you know, the first time that you were like, "Yeah, I'm done. I'm retiring." Then you're hearing God like, "No, this is actually not what's gonna happen." Imagine if you were like, "No, yeah, like, I'm still retiring." Like,
Oh,
if you had not been obedient to, like, that whisper in your ear,
mm-hmm.
you wouldn't have necessarily regretted because you wouldn't have known what would have happened gymnastically. So you wouldn't have necessarily been like, "Oh, I regret not coming back and doing floor," because you wouldn't have known that was gonna happen. But you would always have that thing in the back of your mind that was like, "What if I would have stayed obedient to what God was whispering in my ear in that like, in that moment? What if I would have stayed obedient?"
I remember me and my mom, we were sitting at Brassica over by my apartment, and I flat out I said, "Mom, I'm getting my surgery on Wednesday, so I'll be seeing you Wednesday." And like this was like the Saturday before like our meet on Sunday. She goes, "We'll see about that." I said, "No, like you think I'm joking? I'm getting my surgery on Wednesday. I'm so done. I can't do this anymore." She goes, "All right." And I was like, I was upset. I was like,
Yeah.
like, why are you saying that? And then I remember walking up to her after the meet. I'm like, so you're
So
right.
how did you know?
Yeah. I'm like, so she goes, well, like,
It's the mom intuition.
I mean, mothers always know best.
Yeah.
And truly, like, I was so set on that. But then also, too, like, I could already feel that regret stirring in my heart of like, I was calling you to do this and you didn't be obedient. And, you know,
Yeah.
I could not fathom like the regret that I would feeling, but I would have felt if I didn't be so obedient and wasn't so bold in everything the Lord was calling me into. And that also comes with like people like my mom and my family and my mentors and my friends that are so rooted in faith around me to speak that life into me, even if it's not what I wanted to hear, but it's what I needed to hear and what God was calling them to tell me as well.
Right. Yeah. I also wanted to go back to your perspective that was kind of shifting back and forth because of course at this time like we're going back to what is it Big 10s?
Hmm.
Big 10s. You are super strong in your faith. Like there's no doubt about that. You have been for several years. Yet our flesh and the enemy they still creep in and that's something that we're still going to deal with every single day. It's not like you and I have escaped that now,
Hmm.
but it's honestly like a perfect example of like your eyes were not fixed on Jesus anymore. Like they were not fixed on the Lord and the outcome was a little bit disappointing. It wasn't the worst thing in the world, but it was a little bit disappointing and it was because your eyes were not fixed on the Lord whereas, you going out to do that floor routine, your eyes were totally fixed on him.
Hmm.
If you would have gone out and face planted, you would have been like, "Well, that's what God wanted me to do," because that's how much you had surrendered, right? Of course, it didn't happen like that. It ended in a wonderful way, but that shows that because your eyes were fixed on him, like, he rewarded you for that and he honored you for that, and it's so hard, especially when you have to think about the gymnastic skills that you're doing. It's not like you can just be like, "YOLO." Like, whatever. Like, you have to think about them, but there's a difference in your heart when you're fully surrendered than when you're not. And another thing that goes into that is when our eyes are fixed on the Lord, you see things that you wouldn't have seen otherwise, right? So when you are getting ready to go for that vault, you're thinking about, I got this, I'm about to do this, which saying I got this isn't a bad thing. You should be confident, but in a way that's like, Self selfishly, right? Like, I want this for me. Like, I want to be Big 10 champion for me.
Hmm.
It's so self-centered compared to the opposite of, "God, I surrender this vault to you. here you go, or like you did in the floor routine, I surrender this floor routine to you. And it didn't matter the score of that floor routine, it didn't matter anything else, but I'm sure that you had so many moments with your teammates after that, the feeling that you felt like finishing that routine, the moments with your family that were, like, so full of joy that you can't even, like, describe, but it's because your eyes were not fixed on that floor routine, they were fixed on the Lord.
Correct. And like even just the conversations that followed with teammates. I mean, there was a point where we had multiple girls that were new to faith going with me and my roommate to church every weekend. And
Wow.
even like one of them like I believe like for her culture, like she wasn't allowed to go to like church. So it's like truly like God miraculously moving. And then one of the girls on the team getting baptized at fall kickoff that the football players like held this year that I was able to, help out with and everything. Like there's just so much more that has happened like through that and just conversations alone of like even the simple questions of like, how are you doing this and how are you okay? And
Yeah,
being like, I know my flesh is hurting, but also when my flesh is weak, like the Lord is strong and like He continues to be my strength. And just having those open conversations about faith and like my story was flat out there. Like, and even now I was able to go to like a couple different conferences with my work and other gymnasts from some either Big Ten or SEC schools were there and were like, oh my gosh, watching you this season was truly a miracle. Like, you can just see the Lord at work in your life. Like, just so fruitful. Oh my gosh, was so impactful for me and so many other girls on my team. And like if I, was being disobedient before and truly medically retired, back in December when I really wanted to, like, I wouldn't be having those conversations. Who knows, like, if now, like, I would be able to set myself up for life, like, after college and after sport. And there's been so much good that has come out of it being done with the sport than I could have ever imagined. Because there was even a point, like, after I got the surgery and I signed the papers, I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I should go back. But that was
right.
really the Lord, like, feed or not the Lord, so sorry. That was really the devil feeding the lies to me. Like, he was like, oh, like, you know, you didn't finish this, and what
You could
about
have gone back and won.
back and you could have won like oh
Mhm.
you were just listening to doctors and saying that your wrist wasn't supportive enough even though there's 7 screw portholes that look like Swiss cheese in your frail little bone like the x-rays are crazy but truly was just so fruitful in that obedience though it was to a lot of people like oh my gosh, medical retirement, like that's the worst thing that could ever happen to me. Like that's my worst fear. Like I've even had people say that to me of like their worst fear is being done with gymnastics. And like for me, I was like, oh my gosh, like that was me at one point. And then being able to have those conversations with them, be like, hey, I would love to talk to you about your identity and how it's not in your sport, how you think it is currently. And like just seeing how fruitful that could be. And I mean, it just applies to life as well, like in just every aspect. But truly, that perspective shift and literally like full 180 like degree difference of truly being on the highs of the highs with the Lord and then being alone, even though we're not like he's with us in the valleys, but the Lord never leaves our side. We're the one that walks away from him. So
Right.
being able to admit, okay, I was being selfish in this moment and this is what I led myself into. But when I turn around, the Lord is there with his arms wide open, like calling me back, and just being able to take that has just been so fruitful. And, just even being on here with you is so full circle for me.
Yeah.
Now that, you're a sophomore in college and I'm a senior in college, like fully like 4 years difference, which is just so fruitful and awesome to see as
I didn't
well.
even put that together until just now.
Yeah.
Like, now yeah, wow, that's incredible. The Lord is so good. He's
Yeah.
done so many good things.
Mhm.
Okay, so we've heard so much about your story. It's been absolutely amazing. What are some daily practices that you do to ensure that the Lord is continuing to be the driving force in your life?
Yeah, that is such an amazing question. I feel like looks so different for everybody as well. The one thing that I truly do that just helps me to stay rooted is quiet time with the Lord. Ensuring that there's no background noise, like turning down the noise of the world and turning up his voice to where, okay, like as I'm looking for jobs, as I'm getting ready to graduate, as navigating friendship relationships, just everything in life being like, okay, what is the Lord telling me? Because it's very, very easy to go, call up your best friend and say, hey, Betty Sue, I'm needing advice on this, and just going and doing what they're telling you to do instead of being like, okay, Lord, I'm coming to you first. How should I be navigating this? And for me, that is either, solely just reading the word and diving into the word. That's, watching a podcast, going on a walk, and just inviting him into every space. Like, even like reading a book. I'm currently reading a book called Relaxed, and it's just been so fruitful and talking about the sovereignty of God and like how he's truly sovereign. And like just really also as well who you surround yourself with is such
So important.
big factor, because when you are, going through difficult situations or things like that, are they speaking life into you, or are they speaking, worldly
Worldly.
into your mind, to where that's what you start to conform to, and then you start to revert back to old ways when you've come so far and you've grown so much in faith. So like me and my roommate were basically sisters, and she really has helped me in my faith as well, just like my best friend Zoe. She, my freshman year, was the first person that invited me to church, and we went to church together every Sunday. I'm getting ready to graduate. She's already been out of college for 3 years now, living in Atlanta, and just seeing how even the Lord has been so fruitful throughout her process as well, and getting to watch her go through her retirement firsthand as well, and being like, okay, what did you find through this point? And she's like, I know exactly what you're talking about. I couldn't tell you this though before because you needed to experience it with the Lord yourself first.
Wow.
Which I think is just truly such a friend as well, because they know the importance of having the Lord being the focal point of your life. And there's no jealous without being, that first person that you go to or anything like that. So truly quiet time with the Lord is something that has kept me rooted and kept me on his path. Like, even when, my flesh is weak and, I fall short in different aspects of my life, like knowing that he is there, and truly prayer. I know everybody likes to say prayer and stuff as well, but there's something about I've heard somebody say it's like when you are laid down face first at the feet of Jesus, you can't fall. But like
Literally,
even
because you're already there. You're
when you're
as low as you can go.
already there, spread out in front of him, like you can't fall. Even if you're at your knees, you can still fall. So fully being surrendered, like flat on your face before the Lord, and he already knows everything. He's just waiting for you to come and confess whatever it may be to him. Hey, Lord, I'm doubting you in this aspect of my life. I don't know if you're going to be able to provide this job. Still going to him with that uncertainty, to where he's like, okay, now watch what I can do. And that's just been something so impactful for me, and like kind of how we talked about before, how, and you said you do this as well, of like journaling out your prayers, and
Yep.
just going back through. I actually just finished a notebook, like my prayer journal, within 3 months. I normally go through one like in a year, and I went through one in 3 months, just because the Lord has been doing so much in my life over these past 3 months, and just going through the first prayer that I prayed to the last one that was in that journal, and just seeing just the growth. And that also encourages me as well to be like, you are on the right path, like despite world standards, like to what the Lord is holding you to, and to what you're, pursuing in the kingdom, and having that kingdom mindset, like you're on, the right track. So I think that's something that I really try to focus on, each and every day.
Yeah, and I love the idea of turning down the volume of the world, turning down the volume of what's going on around you, all of the distractions, and turning up the volume of God's voice, which, like you said, can be shown in different ways. First of all, the Bible, like that's what we're referring to when we say the word of God. Like his words are straight up in that book. but you can also hear him through your heart, through prayer, and you hear him through other people, through friends, just like you were saying. And so, number 1, all of those things are so important, but we have to be disciplined that we're seeking his voice and we're intentionally trying to turn up the volume of his voice and not your own and not the distractions around you. I think that's such a great reminder.
Yes, yes, for sure.
Okay, this has been awesome, Mallory. Final question. What is your one piece of advice to a younger gymnast or athlete who is trying to navigate how their sport and their faith coexist?
Yes, that is such a great question. I would just encourage anybody that's out there, whether you're new to faith, this is your first time ever listening to a faith-based podcast, if you're, a gymnast and, came on here to, see amazing Brooke G
Oh,
as
stop.
well. Just truly starting off with just prayer and just being open and being vulnerable. There is so much freedom and vulnerability, whether that is vulnerability with the Lord, whether that's, confiding in a friend. We're called to bear each other's burdens, and in bearing those burdens, we're called to not hold them and just stand there with the person. No, we're called to lead them to the cross. And this podcast is very evident as well of that. So truly just being steadfast in faith, and no matter what pace you are at in your walk and running the race, keeping the Lord at the forefront and surrounding yourself with the truth when we're in a world right now that is focused on what's next and, what your future is going to look like and what college you're going to go to and all of the worldly worries, focusing on what truly matters, which is the kingdom of God and your relationship with the Lord, and not being afraid to talk about it as well. There is power in being bold in your faith, and it's not going to be easy. I'll be the first one to tell you that. I'm sure Brooke can agree with that as well.
Yep.
But as long as you are steadfast, and there will be those things that come around no matter what journey you are on currently, whether that's a season of injury, whether that's your, you just committed to your dream school, like no matter what point you're at in your life, just truly being unwavering for the Lord. And there's so much power in just loving those around you, and just serving those, whether, send your friend the firm foundation music, and you never know,
You never know.
happen through that, so just being truly obedient.
Yeah.
Um, and I hope just in sharing my testimony today on here just shows the power of obedience, whether it's, being able to go back out and compete, or, being obedient and, you know, being done with the sport that you love, and just seeing how fruitful. And never forget, the Lord is sovereign. Anything you do cannot separate you, one, from his love, and two, for the plan over your life.
Awesome. So good, Mal. That was so good. Wow. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of Being Boldly. Thank you, Mal. This was awesome. Guys, Mal is one of my best friends. This was so much fun. And we're so grateful that Brandy Johnson's brought us together. So awesome. But make sure that you guys subscribe and follow so that you don't miss any more Being Boldly updates. Bye.